let's start exploring inheritance and some of the cool things that we're able to do inside of Python. So I've already got a bit of code already built for us. And what I want you to notice is that we've got our little person, just like we've had a couple of times now. We're going to go ahead and set up a little name field and store that inside of the object itself. And we're also going to set up a little method here called sayHello, which will print out hello and then the name that we've stored inside of there. You're also going to notice that we're going to set up a new class called student that will inherit from person. It's going to have a name property and a school property. You're also going to notice the fact that we're going to call that parent constructor to set up the name. You're going to notice that we're going to be in charge of the school, so we'll set that up here. And then we can add on additional functionality as we see fit. So if we go ahead and create an instance of our student, then you'll notice that we can call that sayHello. We can call the sing school song, and all of that will execute the way that we would expect. So let's start here. This is where I want to start. Okay, just clearing out my screen. And now let's go ahead and say Python demo.py. And what we're going to notice is that we get that hello Christopher and that ode to UVM, which is actually not the school that I went to, but that's okay. So that is coming from person. Remember, that's our sayHello. And this is coming from our sing school song, and that is on student. Now, as we've already mentioned, we can also, let me just comment out these two lines of code right here, do a little bit of investigative work. So we can start to see, hey, is this a student? Just like that. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the cool little formatting function that's available to me in Python. Just going to go like that, boom. And so now that will automatically just print out as appropriate. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing down here. Is this a person? And then boom, boom, boom. And then last but not least, my little format string is student a person. And then boom and boom, boom. Okay. I really love this little format string. It's something that you see in many other programming languages. So that way I can actually just go curly brace, and then it will just execute whatever code is inside of here. And what's also really nice about this is if maybe I had a variable name in here and it was returning back something that's not a string, or in my case I've got a function here that's going to return back something that's not a string, the is subclass, for example, returns back a Boolean, it will automatically do a string conversion for me. It's wonderful. I love it. It's a really nice little Python 3 bit of syntax. It's great syntactical candy. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run that. And now what we're going to notice is the fact that, yes, we have a student. Yes, it's a person. And yes, student is a person. So we created that object right there. And then we went ahead and we checked to see, hey, student, person, and a student, a person. All of that came back as true. Okay, well, let's keep on keeping on here. Let me comment out those lines of code right there. And let me take one real quick step back to our student. And what I want to do is I want to create a brand new definition of sayHello. Now you'll notice that the IntelliSense automatically gives me sayHello. The reason for that is student inherits from person. Person has that sayHello. So now when I hit tab to let this autocomplete for me, you're going to notice the fact that it automatically makes this call to super for me. So if I want to, as part of my new implementation, let the parent class do some of the work, or maybe I need to have it do something, grab the value and then append onto it, or whatever it is that I might want, I have that ability here. So I can say, hey, let the parent do some work, whatever that work might be. And then I can add on my own custom code. And I could say something like print, oops, I am rather tired. I don't feel like changing my quotes around to put in the I'm, so that's going to be just fine. So I can just say something like, I am tired. So that's going to execute from student. So let's stop and pause for just a second here and talk about what's about to happen when I run this code. When I create an instance of student, it's now a student. So when I call say hello off of that, it's now going to do that as a student. So it's going to add on that I am rather tired part of it. But you're also going to notice that I can still call the super. So I'm still going to be able to say, hi, I'm, and then whoever it is that it happens to be. So I'm Christopher. So we're going to see both of those in action. So let's go ahead and run our code. I'm just going to get rid of that bottom function here. So you're going to notice that I'm going to call that say hello. So let's go ahead, save this. So now let's go ahead and run that Python demo.py. And now what you're going to notice is that this is running from the parent, and then this is now running from the student. Now the only reason that that parent code is executing is because of the fact that I told it to execute. If I take that out, and now I rerun this, what you're going to notice is the fact that it just says, I am rather tired. So when we override a function, it's not going to automatically call the parent or call the base class. We have to tell it to do that. The last thing that I want to show off here is that neat little string function here. So let's start off by just trying to print out our student. So I'm just going to say print student. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to run this bit of code. I'm going to see what happens. And what you're going to notice is it gives me back something that's not overly helpful. It's telling me the fact that it's an object. It's giving me some form of a memory address. And that's it. I don't know what to do with that. It's not overly helpful. Now the reason that it's giving me that is because Python is just coded to do that. If it doesn't know how to convert something into a string, it just gives you the class name, the memory location, and we're done. Not helpful. Well, maybe it's helpful in certain situations, but for the most part, it's not helpful. It'd be nice if I could say, hey, if somebody tries to convert you to a string, this is what I want you to do. And that is where str comes into play. So I'm going to say def, and then underscore, underscore, and you'll notice that it automatically lists off things like EQ and greater than and less than. So if you want to enable that functionality, you can actually do that right here. It's pretty slick. And again, we'll have a link to all the different things that you could do. In my case, I want str. I need to just return back a string here. So I'm going to return back something a little bit fancier. I'm going to say that I'm going to return the name, self.name, attends, and then curly and self.school. Much more helpful. So now when I go ahead and run this, now what you're going to notice is that I get that neat little string representation. Now, I want to close all of this by highlighting a couple of real quick things. Number one is, again, the fact that we've got this little is-a relationship. Number two, again, the fact that everything is virtual, that I can override whatever it is that I might want. The last thing that I want to highlight is with this str. Now, there's a little principle called YAGNI, Y-A-G-N-I. You aren't gonna need it. I'm a huge believer in the Yagni principle. You aren't going to need it. And I will not add something, I will not add functionality to my code until I actually need it. So people will ask the question, hey, when should I add in str? When should I add in EQ? And the answer is when you need it. So if I'm using a framework like Django, or maybe I'm doing some form of like iterative development, or I'm doing unit testing, or I just need to be able to real quickly print something out and just see what it is, or I'm giving it to a framework that needs to be able to real quickly convert it to a string. Cool. Then go ahead and implement str. But if you don't need it, there's no reason to implement it. Okay. So that's how we can do inheritance. In the next section, I want to turn our attention to multiple inheritance and how we could take advantage of something called mixins, but more on that in the next module.